back to Coffee Chats. I'm Emily Nagel, and happy Father's Day. I'm here with our special Father's Day guest, my favorite guest that I've interviewed so far, my dad, Greg Christopher. Dad, thanks so much for joining me.
Well, thank you. It's good to be here.
I'm so glad that you agreed. I know you're probably wondering what all I'm going to ask you, but it's all great things. I promise you can be relaxed. And so we're just going to kick it off. I think a lot of people know who you are if they're in the Western North Carolina area. But some of our friends that are watching from afar, my dad is the sheriff of Haywood County, and he is an elder here at New Covenant. He's retired Highway Patrol. I'm going to let him tell more about him in just a minute. But I just want to, even before we start, just honor you and thank you, because you truly are the most incredible father. Oh my gosh, I'm getting emotional. And it's just an honor to be your daughter and to have any association with you, but definitely to be your daughter. And so I just thank you for everything that you've sacrificed, everything that you've given, everything you've taught me, the love, the support. I mean, I am a pain in the rear end. So thank you, Dad, for putting up with me all these years and still continue to do so. So thank you and happy Father's Day.
Thank you very much, Emily. You know how much I love you.
Yes.
And your brother and your sister as well. Mm-hmm. And this is a great day.
Yes, it is, for sure. And before we even start, we had somebody write in and wanted me to share my favorite memory of you and I. And two things popped in my head. First one was growing up, riding around in your Bronco, listening to 70s music. What most of you don't know is my dad is a 70s music connoisseur. This man loves some 70s music. He knows every word. It's incredible. And that was just one of my favorite memories. You just let us sing at the top of our lungs. We had so much fun. We would laugh, and it was awesome. And then my second one was at my wedding when you and I danced to You've Got a Friend by James Taylor. And we had a beautiful conversation there, and you were just amazing, and it was a beautiful moment to share that dance with you. And so those were my two things, and thank you to who wanted me to share that, because I don't know if I've ever talked to you about how special both of those moments have been in my life, but I appreciate you always making things special and sentimental for us growing up, so thank you.
No, you're welcome.
So with that, tell us a little bit more about how you grew up. You're a Haywood County boy through and through, so just give us a little bit of insight into your upbringing.
Born and raised on a farm over in Francis Cove, and worked there on the farm until it was time to graduate from high school. Had the opportunity to go on to college, decided not to, joined the North Carolina Army National Guard. Spent quite a bit of time doing some active duty work with them. Came back home, went back to the farm, worked on the farm until I got tired of picking tomatoes and cutting cabbage and pulling corn and doing that sort of thing. And I decided that I was going to apply for the North Carolina State Highway Patrol, and spent the next 28 years and a few months on the North Carolina Highway Patrol. During that time, I continued to be part of the North Carolina Army Guard. Mm-hmm. Spent about 9 months in Saudi Arabia and Iraq back during the Persian Gulf War. And I retired in 2003 from the Guard and continued on with the patrol until March of 13, and then I retired on a Thursday from the Highway Patrol, become sheriff on Saturday of that same week, and I've been the sheriff ever since. So
yes, that's awesome.
From a professional standpoint, that's my life.
Yes, and I honor you for all of that service too. It's incredible, and I don't think there's many people who have served nationally, stately, and then with the county. So that is so awesome. Do you know is there many others? Have you met somebody else that has done that? I mean, I'm sure there
no,
are.
not right off. I can't think of anybody,
Yeah.
but until you just now brought it
Yeah.
to the forefront, I don't think that I have ever thought about that
Well,
that
that's
way.
awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And of course, one of the other reoccurring questions that we get, which I'll go ahead and reveal who this person was because we've asked this with every guest we have had, pastoral or whatever, has been from Lydia Christopher, which is my sister-in-law, your daughter-in-law. And it was, how did you meet your spouse?
I met Sherry in Waynesville on a Friday night. She had come from over in Whittier, near Bryson City, with her brother and his wife. And I was out riding around, doing the riding around thing, which is what we used to do in Waynesville on Friday night and Saturday night. And I met her through that sort of a situation.
I love it. I
Hey.
love it. Because there's not much to do even still in Western North Carolina, but I can't imagine in the mid to late 80s there was much going on either.
Well, hey, we didn't have a whole lot to do.
Yeah.
That is for sure.
There you go. Well, that's awesome. So speaking of yours and Mom's marriage, I think I don't say this lightly, but there's a lot of people who would look at you two and just applaud your marriage and look up to your marriage because it has been so beautiful and so healthy. So with that, what makes your marriage healthy and what makes it work?
Great question. What makes my marriage work and what has made my marriage work? And if anybody's heard me speak at all at events that I get the opportunity to have the stage for just a few minutes, I always going to give God the glory first. But I always say that whenever I recognize Sherry, I always say that the one thing about Sherry is that she loves God more than she loves me. And that is huge because if we put God first, the rest of our relationships, to include our marriage, will work the way that it's supposed to. And so I try to put God first and her second, and then you children third. And she has always done that with me as well. Actually, she taught me how to do that. So I applaud your mother. I love your mother. From an earthly standpoint, hey, she is my life.
Yes. I love that. Excellent advice. So kind of going back to your years of public service, looking back at that 23-year-old, because that's how old you were, correct, when you went into the High Patrol, and starting that career, talking to your 23-year-old self, what is something you would have said, like an advice, just before you embarked on such a high duty to people in service in that way? What is something you would have said?
Slow down and enjoy every minute. And that's something that I didn't do. I was always looking for the next challenge. I was looking for the next promotion. I see where you and Chad and Abigail all get this crazy drive that you have to step up onto that next step. And that has just been my life. When it comes to always looking for the next step, I have not taken time to enjoy the step that I was on. And so one of the things that I tell these young deputies, young troopers, people that are in my life now that I get to speak into, I tell them to take and enjoy the moment that they're in, because that's very, very important. Because I look back now and I was just in a hurry. And now I wish I had have taken the time to enjoy some of the things instead of being so driven to get to that next step.
That's very good, and I need to hear that and remind myself of that all the time. So speaking of jobs and careers and that kind of thing. If you had not went into the National Guard, Star Patrol, Sheriff, what would you have been doing? What is something outside of that? And I know you grew up on the farm and that was there too, but outside of all of that, if you had to pick another career aside from law enforcement and even public service, maybe, what do you think you would have done?
I would have got a teaching degree, and I would have been coaching sports, hopefully at a high school.
Yes.
Right here really close, because I really thought that was what I was going to do whenever I was in high school, but just didn't work out that way.
Yes. And what a lot of people may not know, my dad has been a coach. Gosh, you were a coach for decades, I guess.
I've coached a lot of youth sports, even before I was married. That's just been a part of my life, and I enjoy working with children. And it's been a lot of fun through the years to get to do that.
Yes, I love that. I love that. So obviously the pandemic has shifted all of our lives, kind of flipped everything on its head to say, what has it been like for you? Because obviously with public service jobs like health and police, EMS, anything like that, in emergency services, life didn't or hasn't stopped, but it's still greatly affected. So what has that looked like for you personally and professionally?
It has just sped my life up. And anybody that is in public service, more especially emergency services, it only has caused us to be that much more busy.
Right.
Plus, having to be that much more careful that we are not exposed or that we are not passing something along to someone else. One of our biggest challenges has been keeping COVID-19 out of our detention center and our jail. That has been a real struggle for us. We have anywhere from 100 to 120 people in that detention center on a normal day.
Right.
And so with them living so close to each other, one person coming into the facility with something such as COVID-19 could spread really rapidly. And so we have worked extensively to keep this out of our jail. So we have spent many, many hours working with our local departments as well as our deputies for screening issues, screening purposes. But we didn't get to slow down and stop. We didn't get to go home and work from home. Not saying that there's anything easy about that, because I know that there's not. Because we still have to keep up our work even if it was at home. But hey, our work has not stopped. Plus the fact that during those first probably 30 to 45 days, we had a lot of people calling us to report COVID-19 violations.
Oh, okay.
And so we had to go out and check on all of these different complaints that we would get where people were violating some of the rules and regulations that have been laid out there for us. So it's been extremely difficult. And of course, we had some churches that really wanted to continue bringing people in. So I had to work with some of our pastors in order to make that all work, which, for some people, they have different thoughts about COVID-19 and why it's here and why it's been such a big deal for us. But I have to say that we have some great people in Haywood County that has really worked hard to keep our hospitalizations very, very low and keep the death rate to just about zero here in this county.
Awesome.
I think we've had one that's been related back to Haywood County so far, which is speaks very, very well to both the public and to our officials that have handled the situation.
Yes, very good, very good. So I think anyone who has worked around you or knows you well knows that a quality of yours that is just outstanding is your leadership. And like I said, anyone who has worked with you or anyone that I talk to, they just always mention leadership. It's who you are, great quality leadership, leadership with compassion. But how would you describe your leadership style?
As I get older, it becomes more relational than anything else.
Right.
I've learned that if I can build a relationship with you, then together we can get anything that we need to accomplish. I can ask you to do things if I have a true relationship with you to press forward, even during the hard times. And most of the time, that's when having that relationship with the command staff and with the people that work with us, that's when it comes in the loudest and the best, is because we have real stressful situations from time to time, and those guys and girls know that they can trust me,
Right.
and I know that I can trust them. Besides being relational, building trust, because if somebody trusts me, they know that I'm going to be there with them, I'm going to be there for them. And so either from a leadership standpoint, I would say relationships and building trust.
Awesome. And that kind of moves into my next question as well. I personally think your best leadership has been in the home. And I know that's, where you were just talking about your priorities in life. And you've just been excellent at leading our family. Even still with all of us moved out and we're all adults now and that kind of thing. But you still have so much leadership and wisdom that we lean into. How would you describe your parenting style and how it shifted and evolved from the time we were little kids to parenting now adults who still very much need the wisdom of a father?
No, I don't know how to describe it. I just know that my family is extremely important to me. And my example means a whole lot. And I try to lead by example, and that's even leading you and your brother and sister. And I want to make sure that we put God first in everything that we do. God has to be the centerpiece. He has to be the focal point. And if that happens, then everything else will, there again, fall right into place.
Yeah.
And the part in the Bible that talks about loving the Lord thy God with all the heart, mind, soul, and strength, and then loving your neighbor as yourself. I try to use that as part of what we discuss and talk about, because loving your neighbor is just as important as loving God, because that's the example that God wants us to use for our neighbor. So I've tried to push that down to you three as much as I possibly could.
Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate that. Made me a better person, that's for sure. And the interesting thing is too, kind of going along the lines of parenting, myself, Chad, and Abigail, which are my two siblings we've mentioned, we are dynamically different. So how do you parent very different personalities?
Hey, well, that's a challenge. That's a challenge. But there again, hey, I have to recognize the fact that y'all are individuals, and you are different, and you accept constructive criticism differently. And I may have to completely change the way that I approach Abigail as the way that I'd approach you, and vice versa.
Right.
So, but hey, that's a difficult question, and a lot of times it's just trial and error. But of course, through the years, I've learned your personalities.
Yes.
And so, hey, that's helped too.
Absolutely. So shifting gears, You and I have had a lot of conversation with current events, with racial injustice and police brutality. And your insight and compassion and wisdom with this has been so awesome. What are your thoughts on some of these current events and what our nation's walking through with the racial injustice recently? I just want to hear your thoughts and feelings.
Well, first of all, people have to be able to trust law enforcement. And from what we know about the Floyd situation, if that's what you're speaking
Yes.
about, is what was handled completely wrong by the law enforcement. I assure you that law enforcement officer, that policeman, was not trained that way.
Right.
We're not trained to hold somebody down for 9 minutes with our knee on their neck. We're trained to effect an arrest, use whatever force is necessary, but to put that person in handcuffs, under control, put them in the back of a vehicle, and take them to a detention center or before a judicial official. We are not to be abusive to
Right.
people. That has never been part of any training that I have ever had. This is my 40th year in law enforcement, and I can assure you, the first time that I saw that, I could not even watch it the entire way through. I had to turn away from it.
Yeah.
Because I just knew that it was a joke. I did not think. I thought it was just something that somebody was playing with
Right.
on a video, and it absolutely shook me to my core, professional core, for what that we have, at least here in North Carolina, worked really hard to establish,
Right.
and that is trust with the people that we work for. And we do work for our communities. We work for you. We work for everybody that we serve in whatever jurisdiction we're in. And so this is something that we're just going to have to go back, reestablish. We're going to have to make sure that we reach out to community leaders and to people in our communities and just reestablish and rebuild that trust
Right.
once again. And you know, it's very unfortunate that sometimes one bad apple can ruin a whole bushel, so to speak.
Right. Right.
But I want to say this: there is nobody that despises or dislikes a bad cop worse or more so than a good cop.
Right. Yeah.
A guy that goes to work each day or each night and does his very best to serve his community, whenever he sees junk like this, it absolutely just shakes people like me to our core.
Yeah.
Because we're not supposed, that's not part of being law enforcement.
Right.
So
Yeah.
it's just something that we're going to have to just continue to work on. We're going to have to continue reaching out to our communities, loving on them, letting them know that, hey, that's not the way that 99.999% of our law enforcement would operate.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
and my heart breaks for that family and for everybody that has been involved in that situation.
Yes. Yes. And I think that's what's been the biggest turning point with this was that it was it was the first time that a lot of us had seen somebody kill someone on video, like right in front of our eyes, and somebody who was supposed to protect us and serve us. And even like you know, the first time you see it, you're like, this can't be real.
Yeah.
This cannot be happening. But I want to just thank you for, keeping your men and women accountable and instilling these values of trust and respect for all people. And you've done that with our family, and you continue to do that with everyone who works for you. And so thank you, because those are the things I feel like a lot of the community need to hear, that this is being reinforced, and that trust takes time to build, but it's there, and the hearts are there to see change and to speak out against these injustices. So thank you for that.
Sure. Well, and let me say this, Emily, whenever this started coming out, and it was the truth from what we was looking at. The very next day, we go back in and we start reevaluating our use of force policies. We start reevaluating the different trainings that we have had before, and so now we have walked back through our entire policy and procedure manual from the use of force procedures and protocol that we have, just to make sure that the sheriff's office in Haywood County and the people that work for us and with us all understand exactly what we are supposed to do. Nothing more, nothing less.
Correct. Awesome. Thank you for that. So moving on to even just from your leadership and how you respond to things, what does it mean for you to leave a legacy?
Well, I don't so much want to leave a legacy as much as I want to leave anything that I do better than I found it. If I do that, then I really believe that I've done my job. What I want to do is I want to equip people with the best training, with the best equipment, everything that they need to be able to do their job as a professional law enforcement officer. And so a legacy, hey, I don't even think about that, but I do think about leaving a place better than I found it. And that's what I want to do, regardless of what I'm doing. You know, don't matter what it is, I want to see improvement.
Right.
And I think that's one of the things that has driven me, and I was talking about going from step to step without taking a breath and enjoying it. I think me wanting to always constantly improve myself, and I think I've probably pushed you kids into that same tunnel, unfortunately. So I apologize if that's the case, but we just our blood just has us continuously pushing to improve, regardless of what it is. So, hey, I'm going to call that a blessing that God's given me, but in the same breath, hey, I know it's been a challenge, tough too.
And I want to say for you, and I've heard so many people say, like, your dad has made me feel important. Your dad made me feel heard. Your dad made me feel valued. And just along those lines of legacy, Dr. David Horton used to always say, people are not going to remember sometimes, policies that you got passed or new legislation or new things that have happened because of your productivity or even your great mind or work ethic, but they're going to remember how you made them feel.
That's right.
And I think you've done an excellent job. That's a legacy that you have already left, but continue to do for the people that you touch. So thank you.
Hey, and let me say this about that, Emily. A lot of times I don't know that I make people feel better, but I listen to people.
Right.
And it is amazing what happens whenever that I become a listener and not a talker, or not someone who is trying to express how I feel. A lot of times people just want to express how they feel. And at the end, that's what makes them feel better.
Right.
And I've learned through the years to try to be a good listener. So, hey, that's something that I've had to work on, because sometimes I'm hearing what people are saying and I want to stop them and correct them and tell them how it really is, at least from my opinion. But I've learned to not share my opinion and be that listener. So I think that probably has a whole lot to do with anybody that would say that something such as that.
Yeah, very good. Well, thank you. So we're going to have a little fun. These
Okay.
are just these are more lighthearted questions
Okay.
that we've called the lightning round. So you don't have to think too long on them. Just give us your initial answer. And this is, again, lighthearted, fun, getting to know you better.
Okay.
All right. Texting or talking on the phone?
Oh, talking.
And if you're around Dad, his phone is blowing up all the time. Favorite U.S. city?
Favorite U.S. city?
I don't even know the answer to this.
Wow. I'm going to have to think about this just a minute.
Yeah, you're good.
I think Lancaster, Pennsylvania.
Really?
Yes.
Is Amish country?
I love the Amish country. Hey.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome. Just get you a horse and buggy and
Hey,
throw you up
oh,
north.
absolutely.
Mayo or mustard?
Mustard.
I know this. Let me share something funny. So when I was younger, I have vivid memories of you eating tuna and just dousing it in mustard and stirring it up and eating it.
Yeah.
I mean, I love mustard too, but that was a whole nother taste buds extreme.
I was trying to shrink my waistline, and I knew that mayonnaise tasted better, but I
Right.
knew that mustard added no calories.
There you go.
So they-
Guilt free.
Yeah.
What was a nickname you had growing up?
Pooh Bear.
And who gave you that nickname?
The guys on the football team, I believe Mark Brown was the guy who pinned me as Pooh Bear many years ago. So
Pooh Bear. I love it. I love
kind of
it.
looked like Pooh Bear,
Aw,
you know.
No,
So
you're not. Oh my goodness. Do you snore?
my wife says I do not snore.
But he does love a good breathe right strip.
Oh, I have to have breathe
He
right
loves
strips,
the
yeah.
breathe right strip. What is one of your favorite memories of serving at NCC?
Being a usher / safety team member. Let me tell you, I did that for probably about 4 or 5 years, and I love coming in here. I used to come in the night before and lay a Connect card down in every chair, both here and in the balcony, and I would pray as I laid those cards down. And I was very faithful at trying to make that happen so I wouldn't have so much to do on Sunday mornings. And I enjoyed that so much. It was just a real blessing to get to serve people, being a usher and on the safety team. Now, I've enjoyed my time as an elder as well, but and that's completely different. But I sure did enjoy those usher days.
The usher days. What's your favorite food?
No, pizza. Hands down, nothing else in the world
Nothing else in the world.
like pizza.
What is a place you most want to travel to?
Right now, Denver, Colorado. Sherry and I are going to go out there in September, Lord willing, and nothing happens, and so we're really looking forward to that.
Awesome. Who is your favorite singer or band?
The Bee Gees.
Yes.
From the late 70s.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. How deep is your love?
That's right.
What celebrity would you want to meet?
What celebrity would I like to meet? Wow. I think I would have liked to have met Ronald Reagan.
Awesome.
And I would like to talk to Stephen Furtick.
There you go. Maybe that'll happen one
Yeah,
day.
one of these days.
Yes, I love that. Going along the lines of celebrities and music and all this stuff, if you had to audition for The Voice or American Idol, what song would you sing? And I'm going to stop right there because I've thrown my dad under the bus several times, once in a sermon that I was preaching back, I think, in December, where I told everybody that he can play the piano and he has a beautiful singing voice, but people don't know, and it's like his hidden talent. But if you were going to audition for one of these TV shows, what would you sing?
Oh, man. How deep is your love?
There it is. I knew
There you
it.
go. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. Who inspires you?
It is a Bible character, Joshua.
Love that. That's awesome. What cheers you up?
Getting a hug from your mother after a tough day. your mother just knows exactly how to come in and whisper, "I love you," and give me the kind of hug that I need.
That's awesome. I love it. What is your most dreaded house chore?
Oh, man. I don't like to wash the dishes,
Uh-huh.
but ask me what I like to do best.
What do you like to do?
I love to vacuum.
He does.
I am a
Oh my
vacuuming
gosh.
fool.
You are.
I
I remember
love to vacuum.
you'd make us do it over and over because it was never up to Dad's standards.
Hey.
You love to vacuum. It is something I did
enjoy
not
taking
inherit.
dirt off the floor.
Yes. Who is what was your favorite sport to coach?
Whew. Gosh, I enjoyed football and baseball equally. It was, but I think from a strategy standpoint, baseball was a whole lot more difficult.
Mm-hmm.
So I really enjoyed the thinking part of playing baseball and coaching baseball.
Awesome. What is something that annoys you?
People who don't tell the truth, people who don't get to where they need to be on time,
Mm-hmm.
people that I just can't depend on. I love to be able to depend on people, and
Yes.
sometimes, hey, that don't happen.
Favorite college football team?
Favorite college football team? Wow, I am. I guess I am still a Alabama fan, and Nick Saban. I'm really a Nick Saban fan.
There you go.
Just simply because of the way that he operates a football program.
There you go. What about your favorite NFL team?
Favorite NFL team? Pittsburgh Steelers.
And your favorite MLB team?
MLB team would have to be the Atlanta Braves.
Gotta be the Braves. What was your first job?
Well, I went from working on the farm
Mm-hmm.
to bagging groceries at Bilo.
There you go.
So I would, during those early years, between my military time, I was either in the field working for my dad or in the wintertime working at Bilo. So all of that was in the mix, but I guess the first real paycheck that I got, besides from my dad,
Yeah.
would have been at Bilo.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong. I remember you sharing a story with us when we were younger, and I think you said you were 15 and they sent you on a produce run or delivery to Knoxville. Is that true?
16.
Okay, you were 16.
Yeah, I had my
It was
driver's
legal.
license, yeah.
For some reason, I thought it might
Oh,
not
yes.
have been.
Yeah, my dad trusted me a lot.
Yeah, that's
And,
incredible.
yeah, to think that I would have never sent the three of my children, any of my children, at the age of 16 to do some of the things that he trusted me to do.
Yeah.
But times were different
Yes.
as well. So.
Yes. Tell us about your real pride and joy, your dogs.
Oh, I enjoy my dogs. We have 2 Belgian Malinois,
And they're spoiled rotten.
that they are a great stress reliever,
Mm-hmm.
and I really enjoy having them around. And your mother enjoys having them around because sometimes I'm not around as much as I need to be
Right.
because of work. And those 2 dogs, they make sure that things stay like they're supposed to at our house.
Yes, they're great
Yes.
security. All right, last question. What do you enjoy most about being a father?
Seeing my children blossom into being the Christ followers that I always prayed that they would be. All 3 of my children have absolutely just blown my mind with a hunger for God. And I have watched all 3 of you mature and find your own way in following Christ. And at the end of the day, that's the only thing that matters anyway. So that is most important. And all three of my children have grasped that. And I think from a dad's standpoint, there is nothing that makes your heart just want to burst any more so than seeing all of your children serving God, and not only just serving God, but making it your full time, like you and Abigail have. Wow, for a dad, it doesn't get any better than that. And to see Chad in the military, working through doing the things that he wants to do, the things that he feels that God's called him to do, and for you to have a husband that goes to church with you and serves God with you, and for Chad to have Lydia that is with him and takes care of him, and they serve God together at Fort Benning, like you and Toby do here. That's what it's about as far as a dad is concerned. What a blessing.
Well,
What a
thank
blessing.
you, Dad. Thank you. And thank you all for joining us. I have thoroughly enjoyed this, and I learned a few new things about you even. So that's awesome. Thank you, Dad, so much for joining me and for being here. And again, happy Father's Day to all the dads out there. We love you, we honor you, and we hope you guys have an excellent day. And we will see you next week on Coffee Chats. Bye-bye.